Hello. Thank you everyone for joining us. Give us just a moment to get all the technical stuff on our end sorted out. There we are. Hi, Ashleigh.
Hi, Crystal.
How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm feeling more rested than I have in a while.
I could imagine. Oh my gosh. I have not seen you since before the Olympics, and now you are a two-time gold medal winning Olympian.
Yes.
How does it feel?
It feels good every time. This is the second time I've won, but winning is like the culmination of all the work that you put in the years before. So it's really satisfying to have um, our medals. I have my medals with me as a representation of all of the work that we put in and what we've accomplished. So it feels really good.
Oh, that's so exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I have to ask, do you have a special place that you keep them now that your collection is growing?
I actually keep them here at home with my mom in a like in this case that has all of our, like, I have four siblings, all of our participation swimming. My sister just won a judo competition. Like all of our athletic achievements are in this case that's my mom keeps at her house.
Oh, I love that. Oh, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
it's cool. It's really special to her to see us achieving cool things in the world. So it's nice to bring those back to her because we share those achievements with her.
Yeah, and I love that you keep them all like together in the house at your mom's house.
Yeah, I love it. It's cool.
Yeah. Well, I feel like this is probably a really exciting thing to have come after this past year and a half with all of the uncertainty going on. And I know you had shared with me that there was a period of time where you weren't even sure that the Olympics were going to happen. So, can you walk us a little bit through how this past year has been for you, just with all the uncertainty and the chaos going on?
Yeah, I can. We were going through the same thing as everyone. Like people kind of put Olympic athletes and athletes in general on this pedestal. Like we don't experience the same human ups and downs, but like if any the past year was any sort of like snap back to reality, we all went through this global pandemic. We were all dealing with the uncertainty, the lack of stability, the just not knowing of what was going to happen. Like when everything shut down around February, Marchish, our training completely stopped. We didn't have any information. Like our coach didn't know. The one thing we thought that was certain over like a 4-year period, the Olympics was put on hold. We kind of didn't even know if it was going to happen. We weren't getting any information from anyone. One day it could be happening, one day it wasn't. So that was all kind of really jarring because that's like our anchor, that's definitely my anchor as an Olympic athlete. Like that's what you move towards, that's what is definitely going to happen. So when COVID hit, it was really interesting to see how we kind of rolled through that as a team and then dealt with it individually. I know for me, my I kind of had to re-examine my identity as an athlete because like if this was the only thing that I was moving towards, and obviously it's the most important thing in my life when I'm competing for it, but I had to really look at myself as more than an athlete and really prioritize that balance in the perspective that I have on myself because like I said, we didn't know if it was going to happen, and without that as the anchor for one's identity, it's really hard to be okay, like be mentally okay, be physically okay, have any sort of anchor for what you're moving towards. And everyone can relate to that. Everyone knows how difficult it is not having that key part of your identity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Olympics are.
Having like a specific goal to work toward is such a powerful, motivating thing.
Yes.
Yeah, and having that kind of tossed up in the air, it's like, wait, what have these past 4 years of training been for?
Exactly.
Gosh, so I
And
imagine
it
it
was
feels
cool.
so good.
Yeah, it was cool to see for myself personally that kind of growth and just dealing with that uncertainty, being okay with not knowing. And then once we did know that the Olympics were going to happen and a year later, being able to pivot, like grieve the loss of the Olympics, like we thought that we were going to be, some people were moving past our sport, like retiring, going on to different things. They had to understand whether it was still in the cards for them to move forward with the Olympics and then re-engage mentally, which is a hard thing. Our training is really, really difficult. And then for the ones who are possibly continuing to another Olympics, still that second year of that fifth year of training is really intense to opt into. And everyone opted in and just kind of re-engaged us as teammates and as individuals, which was really cool to see.
That's awesome. And I mean, with all of this, like having to kind of refigure like what your plans were for this time, how did you personally remain focused and kind of get back in, and how did that go for you?
The first thing I did when we were experiencing all that uncertainty and I didn't really know what was happening was allow myself to rest a little bit because I didn't know if the Olympics were going to happen. And if they were going to happen, I didn't really feel that they were going to happen then. So I was like, I don't need to be training at the same level that I was training at for the past 3.5, 4 years. Like, that's not sustainable. My body is used to Olympic cycles, but I can't keep going at this pace. I can't keep staying at this level. So I actually re-engage with my eating, with exercise, with rest, and just prioritized being well rather than like high performance because our goal wasn't high performance at that moment. And I could just feel that my body needed rest. So I learned to listen to myself again, to listen to my physical needs, my mental needs. And a lot of that meant getting more into meditation because I was alone for a lot of the time too. My
Yeah.
roommates were able to go to their homes in California. So everyone left as soon as there was like a little bit of uncertainty just to be in a safe, comfortable place with their family. My family's in Florida. I'm in Florida right now. So it was hard to get over the fear of getting on a flight and not being able to get back with the team if the Olympics were like, okay, it's gonna happen in 2 months. Like it would be I didn't know what was happening. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna be alone. How am I gonna deal with this? What's gonna happen? How's this gonna work for me?
Right.
So just finding my own routine within that and staying connected to my teammates, staying connected to myself, and setting new goals that weren't as lofty as the Olympics.
Yeah, that's so important. I mean, especially with being that you play water polo, you're on a team of athletes. So you're with them like all day, every day training. And to go from that to just being alone and your roommates not being there, I think it's so, important that you took the time to give yourself other things to focus on, give yourself other goals. Yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't easy because our mindset is like everything at the highest level and we're all doing it together. So when I was like, okay, I need rest now, and the only time I'm seeing my teammates is over Zoom, it was just really hard to connect and to feel connected. So we did a lot of work around that as a team, and I did a lot of work with that personally to be okay with that distance and then figure out what was it okay to prioritize in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I love that you're really, putting your mental health at the forefront of this, because you and I have talked about this a bit, but when it comes to athletes, we put so much focus and emphasis on the physical training, the physical demands, and we don't do a lot of talking about the mental demands and the emotional demands. And so that's a whole other aspect. And for you to be able to compete at the level that you do, it's more than just your physical training. So I'd love to talk a little bit more about that. What you do to take care of yourself, like what does that routine look like, what's involved, and all of that.
So for me personally, a big part of my mental health care is having my routine and outside of the team, because our team has a really good routine built in, very well structured practice times, very well structured. We have meditation. We work with a mental sports performance coach. So we have that built in and just good access to resources. But then outside of that, there's this time that's unstructured that you have to set for yourself and do whatever works for you. And for me, that's really owning my space, making my space a safe space for myself, incorporating meditation and breathing, and just getting good nutrition and rest. Like all of those combined, and journaling, writing down my thoughts, getting like everything that's running in my head, from practice, from the relationships, from my family, everything out on paper, that really helps me reset and just sort of clear my head. But yeah, just establishing a routine has been really good for me. And that starts with my skincare when I wake up, my the meals that I eat throughout the day, lighting a candle and journaling at night, making sure that my room is clean and organized. And these all sound like really little things, but they make a difference. And as an athlete, we move around a lot. We're constantly in flux. So having a space that's stable and predictable and just clean and organized and safe and smelling good, like lighting candles is always really cool for me. But having a space like that is huge because it's that sense of stability, it's that sense of home, it's that safety, and something that you can always come back to. And I've really gotten a lot of good feelings from that, having my own space. In the past 2 years, that's one of the gifts that I've received from COVID and this extra year, is that I've really been able to make that space in California my home. And it felt like home. Like I've said home in a lot of different ways and I've carried home with me, but I was really able to build home for myself in that house, in that room. And that was really cool.
I love that. I feel lucky to be able to say the same thing, that I kind of took this time of working from home now to make my space really comfortable and cozy. And as you can see, I haven't quite hung everything up yet, but I'm getting there.
Yeah, it feels different and it brings a different sense of like peace when you step into that room, and different sense of responsibility when you're in that room. Like you kind of can put things in boxes, you can set something aside, get to it. It's nice to have that space. And previously, like going to Russia and China, like every few weeks, it's really hard to um not just treat your room as somewhere you pack and unpack.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I mean, putting as much thoughtful, mindful intention into just the space around you and what you do in your time off as you do into your training, and
Yes.
how much working out you're doing and how many hours you spend in the pool. It's just as important to put that intention into both sides.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm curious everybody's mental health journey is a little bit different. And I'm curious what kind of got you started on yours? When did you start learning about the importance of taking care of your mental health and all the different aspects that are involved in that?
I think that the like overt conversation around mental health and elite athletes and athletes in general, and young athletes coming up in the sport, has been something that's been brewing over the years that I've been an athlete and in sport. And I think that it's something that every athlete is aware of to some extent, but not aware of the resources that are available, and not aware of how small the steps you can take to make that okay for yourself, to acknowledge your mental health, to make positive mental health choices. And I think that the mentality around mental health is slowly becoming less obstructed, slowly becoming more open. And that's really cool. I think that part of reading about that conversation and participating in that conversation with our sports psychologist that works with our team has really opened that door for me and helped me realize that there's little actionable steps that I could take for myself that make this whole process easier, my whole career a little bit more growth oriented, growth mindset oriented, and more of a full perspective rather than just like, this is how I need to perform in this game. Like, I've never been an athlete who's really hard on myself, but I've there have been times when I don't really understand what my mind is telling me, how I should be working with that, and the best ways to approach the game. So there have been moments where I've struggled that I've had access to a sports psychologist and I've worked with them and I've been like, oh, like I've been saying that to myself this whole time and it's been holding me back. Like when I literally just changed this one phrase in my head, like for a good example, I'm a goalkeeper. So I have like a really terrible memory and that serves me because I don't review a lot of stuff in my head. I'm not like constantly looking back. I'm not constantly just like hard on myself about something that I missed. I kind of just, I'm able to stay in the moment and play. And that's something that served me through my whole career, especially as a goalkeeper. And it serves every player who's able to do it. But recently, or not so recently, but recently in my career, I was like kind of fixating on one goal that would go in. And that means that I'm not in the moment. I'm not watching what's happening in front of me. I'm kind of just like, oh, like a mistake is holding me back. So talking to my sports psychologist and realizing like you're you're not talking positively to yourself about that mistake. You're like fixating on it. You're stuck in the past, and that's holding you back. That little thing, it felt really obvious when he said it, but it made me realize like little moments where I'm not talking to myself positively, or I'm not really growing because I'm letting one mistake that's going to happen hold me back.
Yeah.
So there have been little moments like that I've been able to use the resource, my sports psychologist, and I read a lot in psychology. I studied psychology in college. That's just always been interesting to me. But I'm really interested in relationships and how people get along or don't get along. So um, I learn a lot of lessons from podcasts and also from just working with my teammates. We're a group of 18 really strong women, and sometimes that means that we're stubborn. So we all come from different places. So we're constantly working with each other, trying to figure out how to make our group cohesive. And that's really important working for a gold medal too. So there are a lot of lessons in playing, but also outside of the pool and then in our relationships that I've just been slowly learning and adding to my like mental health toolbox. And it all continues to serve me in sport, outside of sport, and just in my daily life.
Yeah, I mean, especially on a team like yours, like you're not just relying on yourself and your own performance. There's so much trust between all of your teammates.
Yeah. Having that trust within us all and that safety to know that someone knows your strengths, knows your weaknesses, and trusts you for that, will rely on you where you're strong, will help you where you're weak, needs you, and you need them. That's all part of being part of a team. And it's all something that we all work to manage every day and work to understand how to fully buy in, because part of being a part of this team is that buy-in factor, being able to give yourself to this process and knowing that you're going to get something back, and you're gifting whatever you have to give to 17 other women, to 20 other women. And that's something that's really cool. Like, a lot of people don't talk about it, but the relationships that grow in this process are one of the biggest things that you get out of. A lot of people think about the gold medal, but these teammates are women that I'm going to have in my life for the rest of my life. So it's really cool to understand that and just see that the kind of growth, because we start as strangers, right? At the beginning of a 4-year 4-year process, and we just go through so many ups and downs, and that's physical, that's mental, that's emotional, and we go through it together. Like, we know each other's family, we know each other's like ins and outs, and that's a really cool thing, and you don't get that very much in many places, especially as an adult.
Right.
You know, the people you know that deeply are people you've known from you were really young. So
Right.
yeah.
That's beautiful. And then you had also mentioned, that part of your routine on your days off is like your nutrition, right? And so,
Yes.
um, when did you kind of like, or what is kind of your approach with nutrition and, um, getting the right nutrients and where does like supplementation fit into that? I know you've kind of mentioned that all of this is a big part of your routine.
Yeah. Um, with nutrition, I do the same breakfast every morning. I did the same breakfast every morning for training. I usually did like wheat toast, multigrain, just to get some variation in grains, avocado for some healthy fats, egg and turkey for protein. And I kept that the same throughout training. But for lunch, I would have like a protein, some greens, some veggies, some grain, like a quinoa or a millet, like something good and yummy. And I did similar for dinner. And with supplementation, like we all get blood tests. Most people don't have access to regular blood tests, but in your regular physical, like I'm vitamin D deficient, even though we train in like direct sunlight in the harshest time in the day, we put on a lot of sunscreen. So with supplementation, I have to supplement vitamin D.
Yeah.
And I also supplement omega 3s just for brain functioning. And that's why Nordic Naturals is so great for me. Like all of those different little supplements that I use, they're all really necessary for me. They're all really necessary for my joints and for my training and just like vitamin D, my energy levels. Like I 100% noticed a difference when I started using supplements, especially vitamin D, with my energy levels and how I perform throughout the day and throughout practices, especially when we have double days. It's night and day.
Yeah, it's, vitamin D is an interesting one. We actually made a video about this on our social channels recently, that people don't often realize that even if you're spending time outside, there are so many factors stopping you from actually getting enough vitamin D, like the clothing you're wearing, or if you're wearing
Yeah.
sunscreen, or, the melanin in your skin, all of these play a factor. And so vitamin D is a really important one.
Yeah. And I've also recommended it to my mom and my siblings because like they live in Florida. I'm back here now, but I was in California and not getting the recommended amount a day. And I really felt different once I started. So I was like, you guys should all be taking this. Like
Yeah.
we'll take it as a family.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
And so, to switch gears a little bit, especially speaking about your family, I'd love to talk a little bit about your story and kind of, how you got to where you are today. And, you shared with me that as a kid, you and your siblings were often the only Black children in the pool. And I wanted to kind of ask what that experience was like and how that impacted your journey, especially into the world of water polo.
When I was younger, it didn't feel that strange because there are 5 of us. So even if there were only 5 of us, it felt like we had a good mix of us, you know? And I always looked to my siblings for kind of support. We were always together. So I never felt like I was different alone. When I went to college and when I started playing with the national team, that's when I really felt my difference. And I really felt what it felt like to be the only one or one of the only ones. Me and my sister went to college together. And then when I was with the national team, I was alone, and playing abroad, I was alone. So I got a lot of questions about um, why there weren't more Black people in swimming or water polo. How did I get here? What was like some things that told me that I shouldn't be there without telling me that I shouldn't be there. So I kind of rejected the narrative that like a lot of people told me that they're like, you need to stay in this sport. Like there's so much good that you could do in this sport. And I was so confused about how they were telling me what I needed to do in this sport when they didn't even know who I was, you know? So when I was younger, that was kind of like a roadblock that I had to get over mentally. I was like, who am I? Why are they telling me who I need to represent before I know myself? Like, I'm just representing me. Like, I'm just here to play and have fun. So, going, once I got older and kind of understood and took it upon myself to learn about the history of exclusion in aquatics and why it meant so much that I was here, why it meant so much that I could achieve what I'm achieving and what I still have to achieve. Once I understood all of that, then it made sense, you know, then it made sense why people were saying it was so important for me to be here and why I felt like I was carrying this responsibility of my entire race in our sport, you know, and that was a big burden to bear coming into our coming in as a 14-year-old, you know, to the national team, going into college and like kind of just wanting to play to have fun. And it felt like a burden. And it could only be a welcome responsibility when I took it on for myself and I understood my journey and where I fit in the context. And I did that. I did the work to understand and realized even further that I would continue to have to explain to people why I was here. I was still going to get those questions. People still weren't going to understand why Black people weren't here. They were still going to tell me that Black people didn't belong here. And that if I was going to be here, then I didn't really have to do much more than just be here to inspire the next generation of me's, of Simone's, of Jamal Hill's. You know, I didn't really have to do much than more than just be here. But if I was going to be here, then I might as well take on the role and speak on it when I could to explain why we're here and why it's important that we're here, because I came in as myself looking like me and didn't understand why I was here, and there were people who were also telling me who I that I shouldn't be here, and those that was ignorance, you know. That was a lot of ignorance that I encountered uh, from those people. And I will take on the responsibility of explaining why we're here and why it's important to be here so that a young girl coming into our sport who looks like me won't have to explain to adults why she's here and why there's no one else who looks like her here, you know? And I realized that that was something important that I could do in our sport. And it's a big part of my why now, why I play now, why I compete, why I speak, why I'm here. And I think that's really important for me at this stage in my athletics, at this stage in my journey. And it doesn't just, it comes with a lot of benefits. Like I feel really good about speaking on this, about getting those messages from young girls and boys, um, saying how cool it is to see someone like us, and from their parents, just saying how much me and all of the people who have come before me and will come after me inspire their kids, and how their kids want to compete with me. It means a lot to me, and it's really inspiring. But it does come with the like added responsibility of what's out of the pool. You know, I'm constantly working with the battle of how much I'm going to give outside of the water and how I'm going to balance that with what I want to give in the water, because I'm an athlete, you know, I want to compete, I want to win, I want to do all of the stuff, but I also want to do this. So it's a constant balancing act, and I'm still learning um, what it looks like for me.
Well, just speaking from being someone who's now, shot some videos with you and gotten an opportunity to talk to you a few times, I think you were doing it with so much grace, and I'm just like so in awe. And, I think from everybody here, like, you absolutely should be here. And I'm so glad that you are, embracing this role of being being this role model. And if you could kind of distill down, like, what is that one message that you want young kids and minorities to get from you, what do you think that would be?
If I could share one message for young kids and people of color, BIPOC people in aquatics, it's that we belong here, we deserve to be here, and we excel here. We excel in aquatics, and don't let anyone tell you different.
Heck yeah. And I mean, speaking of excelling, you are universally considered to be the greatest at what you do. Um, what does it feel like to be called the greatest?
It's so interesting because I know that, like, I hear that, and I know that that isn't just about me. Like, of course, I've put a lot of work into the sport, I put a lot of work into my game, and I'm constantly evolving, have a lot to learn, and will learn. But my team is the best in the world. You know, all of the accolades that any of us receive individually is a reflection of the prowess that we like just show every time that we get in the pool, every time that we get in practice. Like, I've competed against all my teammates. I know how good they are. I know how good we are. So it's just an example and a reflection of how amazing this team is, how amazing this program is. And it's really been remarkable to watch this growth as an outsider, as a young girl looking into our sport, and then be a part of it and actually experience it. And it's exactly as hard, it's exactly as rewarding and as challenging and as amazing to be a part of it as it is to watch it from the outside. So yeah, a lot of us are going to get individual accolades like that and recognized like that, but our team is just really an incredible group of women, and the pipeline is so solid. Like, the women who will come through this program are all incredible, and they're pushed by these shared values that make our program really unique.
Yeah, I am lucky enough to have had the opportunity to watch you guys train ahead of the Olympics, and it was wow.
Intense.
I went home like, I gotta work on my swimming.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, as an Olympic athlete, as a two-time gold winning Olympic athlete, I'd imagine you are often the center of attention, right? And so I'm curious, do you ever find that to be distracting at all? Or, how do you stay grounded and just kind of focused on your goals and your purpose?
Um, it is distracting sometimes. I think that having a constant reminder of, like, knowing what my purpose is, knowing what my goals are, knowing what my team's purposes and our goals are is a good focus point.
Mhm.
So if you're not kind of keyed into those things, then it's easy to wander. It's easy to be like, oh, this is cool today. That's cool today. That's fun, you know? But having those solid things that you're moving towards, and just being able to view every opportunity as something that's going to get you closer to your goals, or achieve some goal, or whatever, live through the value that you set for yourself. That's something that's really important and has been really important for me personally, especially with opportunities that have come up while we're training, is because our time is so limited. And then opportunities that come up outside of our training after competition. It's just, there's a lot happening, there's a lot going on, and everything's really cool. And I think that in my mindset, everything leads you somewhere, and wherever you end up is where you're supposed to be. So having those values, having those goals, those are focus points. Those are things that you can keep your eye on in the distance, and know that every opportunity that you say yes to, everything that you say no to, it's getting you closer to those goals. Or maybe you shouldn't be doing it, or maybe you should.
Yeah. And, speaking of goals, now that this round of Olympics are behind you, do you have any other big goals on the horizon? Is there anything else that you're working towards right now?
Right now, I'm resting. Like, I'm reconnecting with my family. I'm spending some time in Miami. I'm really happy. We have two dogs that I've just been cuddling with for 2 days straight.
What are their
And
names?
their names are Jax and Kona.
Cute.
They're so cute. But I've been just hanging out with my family. My boyfriend and I are spending a month in Miami with my family, a month in San Jose with his, and then we're moving to Greece for a professional season abroad for me. So
Ooh.
that's next on the table with water polo. But I'm really, once I feel rested and back to getting after it, I think that the most important thing for me is going to be working on my brand and deciding what direction I want to move in next, because it's just a constant evolution with as an athlete in sport, and with the access that we have on social media and the platforms that we have. Like, I have goals, I have a message to send, and I want to move towards that in the most effective way. And it's not always the time to do it, but when I have downtime, I like to be intentional about it. So the next few months for me are going to be setting and moving towards those intentions.
I love that. And how do you, I mean, I would imagine the, obviously the training schedule between just before the Olympics to now is completely different.
Yeah.
So how do you end up, or how do you maintain like your motivation when you are sort of going from this period of time where like all your time is scheduled out and you know where you need to be and when and what you need to be working on, and now things are a little more opened up? How do you stay motivated and kind of keep moving forward?
That's actually a big thing for me, because like while I'm competing, it's hard for me to understand why anyone exercises, because I'm like, if I have time off, I'm resting, but when I have nothing but time off, I'm very competitive. I'm always super competitive. My sister like works out 24/7, and I'm like, okay, I've just got to, I've got to move. But also, having gone through that pandemic and the time with no structure was really, really positive for me, because, like I said, with nutrition, it made me kind of reset and understand what I needed in the time where I didn't really have the Olympics moving forward. And I was like, kind of did nothing for a few days but at the end of that week, I was like, I need to move. Like, my body hurts, like
Yeah.
I'm not feeling good if I just eat, if I don't really focus on nutrition. I'm not feeling good if I don't get like 30 to 45 good minutes of movement every day. So making those decisions for myself and realizing how they affect my body, like actually 8 hours of sleep, drinking adequate water, like just basic things, realizing like I don't have a nutritionist telling me that I need to do this. I don't have a trainer telling me that I need to do this, but my body's telling me that I need to do this because it hurts when I don't. Like, I feel the effects when I don't. And I'm not training right now. I'm not killing myself in the weight room. I'm not trying to like PR in the pool. So there are a lot of things that I realized in those periods of rest, in that like forced period of rest, that I opt into now, because I know that it just makes me feel well. It makes me feel good. And it's really good for my mental health too. Like, I feel awake. I feel like I can move easily when I wake up. I eat well. I drink well, and I'm just treating my body right.
Yeah, definitely. I'm wondering, so I think we're actually going to get maybe a couple of questions um, from the audience. So
Okay.
I'm just waiting for those to come through. But so you mentioned that you're going to be going to Greece, right? For
Yes.
how long are you going to be there?
I'm going to be there for 6 months.
Oh, that's so exciting. And so I know
Yeah.
you mentioned it's actually for like you're gonna be competing and you're gonna be doing water polo while you're there. Are you gonna take time to travel and to, vacation while you're there?
I'm going to, so the Greek season's a little bit uncertain right now for me, because I haven't gotten the schedule for our team, but if I get weekends off, we're gonna travel to maybe an island, maybe to another country. Europe is super easy to get around through, so we have plans to we have plans to travel.
Oh, that's so exciting.
I'm excited.
Yes. Much deserved. Much deserved.
Thank you.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions that I'm going to go through, quickly that the audience has sent in.
Okay.
Um, so the first one is, how has your routine changed since your newest gold medal win?
Okay, so my routine from full-time to now, full-time training. So in full-time training, we were training 6.5 hours a day. I had meals at very regimented hours, not because our team dictated that, but because our schedule dictated that. Like I just ate when I woke up, ate in between practices, which was about 10:30, like I had 10:30 lunch. And then I ate when I got home and went to bed so that I could get 9 hours of sleep. And now I have a little bit more leeway. I wake up at about 9. I either work out in the morning or at night, and I just get to do some research. I get to take care of like tasks like figuring out. I'm like I today I was renewing my car insurance. Like those are the kinds of things that I would like kind of put off for weeks, and then
Just
um,
adulting.
yeah, adulting. Like I'm just doing these kind of random tasks on time because I have the time, and just I can hang out with my family and just have long talks, which is cool. Wash the dogs. And but I work out 30 to 45 minutes a day or an hour sometimes, and those workouts vary, whereas like because I can dictate them on my own, I just choose whatever I'm feeling today, but I always make sure to move. And I'm just eating the way my body, like when I'm hungry, I eat.
Yeah. It's funny, it's so true, but it was something I never even thought about, is that when you are training for something like the Olympics, your days are so regimented for such a long period of time,
Yeah.
leading up to it, that things like making time to go to the DMV are just not a priority.
No, it's like everything happens on one day off. So that day off is going to be full
Yeah.
of all of those things.
It's not even really a rest day.
It's not a rest day. You're just running around doing the things you needed to do like months ago.
Gosh, well, now you have a little bit of time to get those done.
Yeah.
Um, and so another question that we have, and this is on the topic of, we talked a little bit about vitamin D and how you learned that you were vitamin D deficient, and so you started to supplement. Are there any other supplements that you like to take as well?
Yeah, I like to take an omega-3 supplement, and I also take a cranberry mannose supplement, and that's just for women's health, just urinary tract. And yeah, I also take a multivitamin, and um, I take one more. I can't remember what it is right now. Oh, a probiotic.
Yes, very
Yeah.
important.
And just
Especially,
because I travel so much too, gut regulation is a huge thing for me.
yeah. And omega-3 is just for your joints. I mean, you're constantly swimming and, doing egg beaters and throwing a ball. Like your joints just take so much.
Yeah. And we don't get as much impact on our lower body, but you're right, like the swimming, the throwing, the overuse of all of these different kinds of and unique impacts on our body through our sport is omega-3 is really big.
Yeah. And a question we have is, do you happen to have a favorite Nordic supplement?
My favorite is the vitamin D omega-3 combo,
Yeah.
just because it's like 2 in 1. Like
Yeah.
you can't beat that. It's so
Make it easy.
nice. Yeah.
You're like, I'm
It's
busy. I don't have time.
I
Okay,
don't
boom.
have time.
Okay, so I actually think we can go ahead and kind of wrap it up, because a lot of the questions we're getting are kind of the same. So I feel like we've answered those for people. And I just want to say, thank you so much for joining us today and for talking with us about your story and about your mental health journey. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with those who are watching with us today?
I see in our chat that there's a number one recovery tip, and I just want to say that my number one recovery tip is sleep and hydration. Like those are the ones that feel really obvious, and you're like, okay, well, I can just kind of cut an hour here. Maybe today I didn't get enough water, I'll catch up tomorrow. But those are ones that I've incorporated into my routine that really, really make a difference. Like with mental acuity, with how I can move, with just various like basic functioning things that I'm sure will, I have to keep carrying it through my life. Like just reading a book, my attention with being able to having enough sleep, having enough water, those have changed my life. Like it's just different. It just feels different.
Yes.
Yeah.
And actually, there's one other one, and I'm sorry I said I'm, because I missed this one, and I love this question because this touches a little bit more on mental health. So I'd love to ask you this one: is what kind of meditations do you do? Like, do you use a specific app, or is there just like something you personally like to do?
So I've done a lot of different meditations. I've done moving meditations, I've done sitting meditations, I've done group. I use an app called Healthy Minds. And I like Healthy Minds because, well, I love the whoever narrates it. I like their voice. It's really good for me. But you can also choose different there's one meditation that I like in particular, a loving kindness meditation, where you send good vibes out, you send just like positivity, and it always like kind of resets me and refreshes me. But you can choose the times that you meditate. And I'm sure that a lot of different apps do this. You can choose minute, you can choose 5 minute, 30 minute, 20 minute, and just varies. And you're not always going to be feeling like a deep 30 minute meditation every day. So I like being able to choose the time that I spend meditating and just making it a regular thing, because um, it's something that you should feel. It's something that it feels different every day, and the time isn't always going to be the same. But yeah, making it a regular part of your routine is something that helped me while I was training, and something that I'm excited to get back to now.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I think that pretty much wraps it up for the day. So again, thank you so much for joining us and for just sharing all of this with us and answering these questions. And I'm excited for you to get a chance to rest and relax and spend time with your family and go to Greece.
Thanks, Crystal. And thank you, everyone who watched. This has been really fun. Those are great questions, Crystal. It was really nice talking to you.
You as well. I hope to see you again soon.
See you soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye.